welcome to the SCORE Business Showcase. We'd like to welcome you once again to our businesses out there in TV land. We have with us a super guest, a good friend of mine for many years, Jesse Thompson from Milford Photo.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today.
Oh, thanks for coming. Now, Jesse, what actually made you get involved in photography?
Well, this is an old story because it's all I've ever done. Back in 7th grade, I was tapped by, I think, my English teacher, and she saw me with my dad's camera, and I was taking pictures of a play, and she said, you know, I could use some help on the yearbook. And from then, you know, I've looked at photography as a way to be useful. I was never much of a joiner, so I made a decision as a kid, oh, this is my way to participate. And so my dad kind of bequeathed his old Minolta SRT to me, and I started to go to different school events, and the camera was a vehicle for me to kind of push myself and get out and mingle and be part of something, but on my own terms. And you know, while that's not what I do anymore, that's how I got my start. I kept up with it through high school, which got me into, you know, everything for free. It got me out of class, and of course it led me to, you know, at the time, downtown business, a brick and mortar business, Milford Camera, and they had been on River Street right in downtown Milford for a number of years. I was doing a paper route. I was getting tired of the paper route. You know, you're 15 years old. Your legs starting to get a little tired there.
At 15.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had like 80 plus papers. It was a lot.
Okay.
And so I got an after-school job, and you know, I've been downtown selling cameras in Milford now for over 35 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
fantastic. Yeah. People come in that I went to grammar school, high school with, and they just can't believe I'm still there. So I think that's praise.
Yes, yes it is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. I got started at 9. My parents gave me a camera, and matter of fact, the one that you let me keep actually was that little film camera, and I forget, it had a built-in flash, but I lost that and you replaced it.
High technology, built-in flash. I mean, it's changed so much since when we started taking pictures. My first camera was a box camera, and I can remember my dad said, well, you know, if you can pay to keep the film in it, then, you know, you can keep it. And thus began a long process of working and buying cameras and making pictures.
Yes.
That has finally stopped because now I think I own about 400 cameras, and I don't need any. Do you need a new one?
Well, yeah, I could use it.
You can always use a new camera. Yeah.
But you know, I graduated. My camera, interestingly enough, was the same camera you had. It was the Minolta SRT 201.
The 201. I believe it was a 201 that my dad gave to me.
Yeah, and so from there I've been using that for a number of years. And then actually about 6 years ago, I got my first DSLR, and that was from you. It was a Rebel T3i. That's what it was.
Well, you know, we've sold, I can't even begin to imagine how many cameras we've sold over the years. And DSLRs are now, you know, such a big part of our business. You know, people might say, wow, you know, there's still camera people out there. And there are, and a store like ours has to cater to a very motivated, hobby-centric, and frankly, many people who are looking to parlay their love of photography, develop a skill into maybe making a little money with it too. So our audience has shrunk, of course, but what remains has become, you know, very, very motivated.
Now, that brings a good question, you know, because these have come into the world, all right, these...
I am familiar with those. Let's call them what they are, cell phones.
Cell phones, exactly.
Smartphones, right.
And so how has that changed things for you?
Whoa, monumentally. It would be, you know, thinking about all the things that have changed over the years. So I started in 1978. What you had there were, you know, 35 millimeter point and shoot cameras, 110, 126 cameras. They were on their way out. The 35 millimeters got smaller and easier. So there was a technology shift there. The cameras became more automated, and pictures were more readily of higher quality. So autofocus, auto exposure got better. So the manual cameras went away. Then came the Mini Lab. Early 1990s, we faced a decision. Do we put a lab in that prints our pictures? So we did that, and that was a lot of money and a big change for us. We had to, you know, change our business model. But it worked and it kept us going. And so then came the computer aspect of our business. Everything now, your point of sale system, now everything's computerized as you go through the 90s. So we've faced challenges before from technology. Big one right here. The phones, let's face it, do much of the heavy lifting that is personal photography, snapshot photography.
Yes.
And they do a great job. They do a great job with it. And so you're faced with, well, how do you compete with that? And certainly part of our business model has changed. Point and shoot cameras, handful now, whereas even 5 years ago I might have sold hundreds during the holidays. Now it's not that many, you know. Those were the days.
Right,
but
right.
you know, so now it's gone to the bigger camera. And well, it's a multi-pronged approach. You just have to educate and also, you know, accentuate the quality differences that the camera still gives you.
Now, how about, you know, one of the things I'm thinking about, because you're thinking about businesses, we're thinking about success and also challenges. I'm sure this has been a challenge, all right, as far as I was concerned. But also, I'm thinking of it as a stepping stone from this to this.
It's a step that is hard to quantify. I think that certainly younger people are going to take these and get interested in making images. And then they're going to run up against some of the limitations of reprinting, enlarging, zooming in. Some of these things might be changed in the future by the digital technology that the cameras can afford. But right now, you know, if you have a kid that plays a sport, or you're going to go on a vacation where, you know, you're of a generation that, you know, still wants to make pictures, enlargements, crop those pictures, take a certain area and enlarge it, and make wall art out of your pictures, which is what a hobby, you know, part of what this hobby should be. You're going to quickly run out of patience with some of the things that the camera can do. And that's why you've got to step up to the bigger camera, because it's the chip that makes the difference.
Yes, yes, indeed. Now, in your business, it's broad. But how do your prices compare with online resellers?
So what's happened in our industry is that to become a participating dealer with, let's say, a vendor, you know, you adhere to a price structure. And what that's done is that's helped us compete with, you know, large online firms, you know, which of course is another big development. It's as big as the phones and maybe in some ways larger. Let's face it, Amazon to a brick and mortar store is something to be concerned about. We've joined the fray. We do sell on Amazon. It's a part of our business which has been integral, but certainly compares very, in a small way, to what we do through the front and side door that way. I mean, I don't know if I answered your question completely there. You know, we'll go double back maybe a little bit and think on it. You know, so our pricing is to legitimate dealers what you would expect it to be. So there's some strength in that from our position.
Well, you know, you're one of the few retailers out there in Connecticut, right? It seems like to me, because there used to be some stores that used to be in Bridgeport years ago.
Yeah.
And Lenny.
Yeah,
right?
Len's Camera. Yeah, sure.
Down there, and also the one that was at one of the first malls in the United States, which is at the, I can't even think of the name right now, the Arcade, downtown Bridgeport. There used to be a camera store inside there a long time ago.
You know, I can't tell you. We used to be part of a group, a network of Connecticut photo dealers, and in the early 80s when I started to attend meetings, you had 30 or 40 people there, and that winnowed down, and of course there is no more organization. While there might be a few, you know, camera stores left in the state, we are, you know, we're the largest, and I think we're the most well known, and that's just been through a tremendous amount of work and promotion that way.
Yeah, because I think the closest one is maybe the one in Stamford, right? That
yeah, you know, certainly along the 95 corridor. It's funny, you know, the Romans first came up with the idea, if you put a big sign on the road, people might stop and read it and then go to wherever that sign says to go. And we have billboards along 95.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, and they've been great for us. And the billboard company does give those away. but it's been an investment. People see the billboard and they think, wow, to have this billboard, they must be worth visiting.
Absolutely.
And so it's driven people, in that way. And in another way that we use the building to our advantage, that people can come in and experience, kind of a camera store. I was going to say an old-time camera store. I was thinking of Lens Photo, and I was thinking of all the places that used to be in New Haven, even. And we are kind of a throwback in that regard.
Yes.
With the digital touches, yeah.
Well, one thing I do like about your business model that you have for brick and mortar is you have people in there that we can ask questions.
Yeah. All
right. And that's so important because at the other retailers, a lot of them don't even know about the cameras. Talk about, well, what is this for? Right?
Sure.
This is like a computer, right? This thing right here.
Sure. And it represents even entry-level DSLRs and DSLR, right? Interchangeable lens camera. Where this lens comes off, you put another one on. Some are longer, some are wider, some are let in more light. So these are advantages again to the effect of your photograph. Education and your people. Let me start with the people. It's all about that. It's all about the experience that your customer gets. And no small business should ever stop looking from the outside at that experience. Should always be striving to eliminate roadblocks to any service or product that you offer in as much as you can and not lose money on it. But to just get out there and monitor what your folks are doing, and of course hiring the right people in the first place. I can think of 3 or 4 people that we both know that are just so important to the store, and first name basis, come in, repeat customers.
Absolutely.
So you also know that when the new people come in, they're going to get treated well, right from the get-go.
And that makes so much sense. I went to a photography workshop this year. It was in New York City, and I can't think of the person's first name, but his middle name is Jordan Smith. All right. Anyways, he's a celebrity photographer, and he was doing a section on light. And anyways, at the end, I'm expecting him to throughout the day tell us, what book to read. You need to read this particular book. Maybe a book on photography 102. And so I asked him. I said, there's about 30 or 40 people in there. I said, so which books do you suggest that we read? And he said, well, you know what? That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that question. And so I'm expecting the photography book, 102. Here it comes. And he says, the first book, he gave 3 books, and the first book I want to tell you is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
And I smiled like you, and I said, I took that course. And the other 2 books had nothing to do with photography, but had everything to do with communication. And that's so important in photography because that makes a difference. Even my association in doing fashion photography here and there and shooting with models, they said, Steve, you're different. All right, these other photographers, they're not interacting. There's something missing there.
Yeah, it's about listening, and then being able to get across a message with empathy and understanding. I mean, I think one of the things one of my strengths that I've always thought is that I'm able to put myself in their shoes. We're all consumers, and we can go online and we can get what we need. And we've got what we need without any kind of interaction. And so when people come in, I think that what has changed over the years is it's not just a commodity anymore. It's an experience that they need to feel. Yeah. And I think my people get that. And I think that's one of the things we're known for, not just at the counter level, but also in all the classes and workshops that we do.
Oh, fantastic. So you have classes.
Oh, very much. Yeah, we've been very active. To give you an idea how important Milford Photo has been to me over the years, is that I met my wife at Milford Photo in one of our classes, and she took our beginning photography class, which I've been teaching now for over 15 years. And
I think my wife took that class, actually.
Yeah, so many people have, and so I mean, gee, without Milford Photo and the class that I did, you would not have met her. And so many, I don't know how many people have run through our classes, but that has become larger. It's going to get more, even bigger, and that's something that's expected now. And why wouldn't it be? You know, 25 years ago, you might have offered a thing now or then, but you were a place where people came and bought something. You've got to be far more than that now, and certainly the classes, the workshops, the experiences that we are trying to offer people, it can't be missed. Any small business, you've got to think about what you're selling. Yes, you're selling yourself, but there's a product too. And while there are online resources for this, you know, yes, you can Google camera, see this. I think there's still a part of the population that will say, I want to go talk to somebody.
Yes, yes, it's needed. It's needed. Matter of fact,
and any small business, sorry to finish my thought, any small business owner should think about that. You know, whatever they've got going on, they've got to bring ways to bring people in. It's not just about bucks, knocking dollars off. It's about providing this tangible quality of education and empathy.
Yeah, there was a company. It was a electronic retailer, City something. What you know what I'm talking about? It was in Orange, and they had actually salespeople in there that knew about the product, and you could talk to them, and they would go over. Matter of fact, I was in there for like 3 hours, getting ready to purchase a surround sound system, and he went over the intricacies of that product, and I ended up buying it.
Yep.
Right? He answered the questions. And the same thing with you. You guys do the same thing. Your people know.
You know, one thing that I've had to adjust to as a manager and overseer is the increased amount of time that goes into a camera sale and how my sales staff manages their time.
Yes.
And you know, there's been a bigger investment on my part towards, you know, each camera sale. And so what, of course, we want to do is make sure that we're maximizing that sale. And, you know, we're not aggressive. You know, we're suggestive. You know, and there's certainly things when you buy something, you should have other gadgets, widgets, whoosie watsits that go along with it.
Yes.
And I think you're doing a disservice to your client if you don't at least suggest these things. Extended warranties, for instance, that was never a thing. And you say extended warranties and people roll their eyes. It's just a money-making venture. Well, listen, you know, tell that to the person who 2 years from now drops their DSLR and then comes to find out for, I don't know, a certain amount of money, they could have, you know, had that insured, you know, down the line. And if we didn't tell them, I'm kind of on the hot seat now. See, so these are kinds of ways that you know, when you come in and you talk to people and you take this time with them, I think a good salesperson's got to be able to recognize that opportunity and to try and sell folks what, you know, I think they should have.
Absolutely. Now, talking about, again, of course, the other companies out there, we're talking about archiving. Do you do archiving of images for your consumers? Yeah,
thanks asking. We do so much more. And we're not just, we just don't sell cameras. Matter of fact, most of the people that come through the store are probably there for one of the services that we offer, custom framing, video transfer, and archiving. So you bring up archiving. There are so many photographs out there that have been printed. Remember when people used to make pictures and they used to have albums that are going to fade away? And it's a shame, given that to preserve these things digitally takes very little effort, really, and is fairly inexpensive. So we do a tremendous amount of print slides. Remember slides?
Oh, yes,
yes. Transparencies of all formats, and video. Movies. I can't get over how much movie film is out there. Every year we think about how much movie film will we do this year. You know, old Super 8, regular 8, 16 millimeter.
Oh, wow.
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And you really had to know your stuff or want to get out there and record these kinds of things, whether your phone now just does it, right? Back then you carried around a camera that weighed like this.
Right.
Of course, you didn't know any better, but you did it.
Exactly.
But there's so much footage out there. And every year we see our numbers go up with the video transfer. Yeah.
Matter of fact, you're making me think. Right now, I have a 16 millimeter of my dad that he did with the city of Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And we probably need to put that on DVD, all right, so that way it's preserved.
You know, my favorite kind of photography is of people, of just slice of life things, and snapshots are old snapshots to me are invaluable. You know, a lot of that, the Ken Burns, the Vietnam movie, that he did for PBS. So many of those old shots, you look at them, there's so much in those things.
Yeah.
And what we're in the business of, or at least that business, is memories and archival preservation of your family's memories. It's such a big part of what we do, and one of the I think more profound things that we do is to preserve these things forward for the next generation. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I came to appreciate when it came to photography. I do a lot of fashion photography and also with families and whatnot. And they bring you into their lives. They share things with you that they wouldn't normally do that.
Yeah.
But with photography, they do.
Being a photographer, there's like a dichotomy. You have to interact. You have to be, I use the word again, empathic and sympathetic with your client. But you're also putting the camera up to your face, and that creates I don't want to say a discordance, but there's always a bit of a separation between you and your subject, and but that's okay. That's part of the craft of being a photographer and the position of being a photographer, even if it's not a capital P. Small P photographers generate most of the images, right?
Yes.
That we see day in and day out, and it's invaluable, I think, to humanity.
Yes, it is, because we're capturing life events. All right, that when they put it in a time capsule, they're putting in pictures.
I've never taken for granted the fact that I sell things that people want rather than what people need. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, you might have had need customers, but now everybody I see, they want to be there, and I think that's been a good change for Milford Photo.
Now you've put in a lifetime, 35 years into photography. What is the most outstanding situation that has come about in those 35 years that stands out to you?
Wow, that's a big question. I think that, you think about so many people that have come through the store. I've sold cameras to daughters and even grandchildren of my clients. I've seen so many of my clients pass away, which is always sort of a sobering thing, but also from the point of view that, wow, we have been doing this for such a long time. I can't think of one thing, Stephen. I can't think of one thing. It's just been a long process. There have been some very challenging times, along the way. But by and large, I'm so lucky to make such a short trip. I live in Milford. I'm part of the community. No, you stumped me on that one. I didn't give a good answer.
Well, I know I was asking a difficult question, but
it's just a big one.
Yeah,
that's okay. It'll hit me on my ride back to work.
Right. But you've touched many people's lives. Matter of fact, forget about touching. You've probably impacted people's lives with photography.
Well, we would like to think so. My business partner, Jim Wilson, he's the a driving force, really. He has laid it all out on the line, and he's had a mission. He's a smart and aggressive businessman who's put a lot of his own bucks into this, and so myself and my sales manager, Rich, and so many of my employees, feel there's an ethos to make this thing work. Not only are our livelihoods, but there is this notion that as a standalone electronics dealer, my goodness, how many of those are left?
Right.
And so there's this sort of I like to think an esprit de corps that folks they're coming to us for a reason, and our job is to inspire them to get out there and make frames. It's only good for all of us that way.
Do you get a chance to go out to the Jacob Javits Center once a year?
Yeah. Well, I hadn't been for a couple of years, and I went this year. And we also once a year, or sometimes twice a year, go to business meetings with a group that we're involved in there. And that's nice to go and commiserate. And these things are invaluable. If you can join any kind of organization that provides education, and frankly commiseration.
Yes.
It's good to be around people who do what you do, share the same gripes, look at the same kind of hopes and fears. As far as Javits goes, it's always gee whiz. It's like, and it was good. I was down there again for a day, and it was a lot of stuff going on. Everybody said, "Man, it's a lot of energy here."
Yes, I was there Friday. It's like being a kid in a candy store. It's unbelievable. Well, this has been a great experience. I do want to share this book with our businesses out there before we end. I got this from a business individual. Matter of fact, many people know him. He had a business in the area for quite some time. Ed LaFlamme. He was a businessman in landscaping, but if you saw him, you would never think of him as a landscaper. He always wore a suit and tie. But anyways, he suggested this book, and I got it, Transcend: The 9 Steps to Living Well Forever. Right? It talks about your eating habits and how you can actually improve your health and extend your life. So as a business people, you need to be energetic, you need to be alive. All right, so this is a suggestion as far as putting it on your plate. But it's been a pleasure, Jesse, to have you with us, all right, today. And also I want to remind our SCORE viewers out there that we give free services in SCORE, and just give us a call. The numbers will be at the end of the show. And we welcome your questions and answers. But by the way, where are you located too, Jesse?
Oh, well, thank you for this opportunity. And we are at 22 River Street, right in downtown Milford. Of course, we're on the web too at www.milfordphoto.com. That opens the keys to the kingdom there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Stephen, I'll see you around the store.
Yes, indeed. Look forward to it.